Hey guys, it's Hannah and I'm here today with my January wrap-up. So, I am actually quite pleased with myself. I actually had a really good reading month. I ended up reading 13 books. I'm very surprised, but I'm loving this start to the new year. And let's get over into it with my monthly stats here. So I did read 13 books. I read 1,180 pages, which is impeccable for me because usually I just do audiobooks, and we'll get into it, but a lot of them were shorter books, but I still physically read and I'm very happy about that. I did listen to 43 hours of audiobook time. My average rating was a 3.73, which is not bad overall. Like, it could be worse. It could be worse. I did do one reread already this year, and I did acquire 7 books already, which I know is not the point of this. I'm trying to get down my reading, like my owned book TBR. However, I've already read one of the books. So that's like my one thing, that I've already read one of the books, and I'm like definitely planning to read several of the other books like in this next month. Let's hopefully they come up in my TBR because it's happening, because I'm like hooked on the series. Also, I'm also planning on picking up another graphic novel. I'm just waiting for it to come into the store. But let's go into quickly those books that I picked up this month for January. As you will see, I started the series this month, and I was just waiting for them to come all into my store, and they finally did. So I picked up the next 6 graphic novels in the Sunstone series, Sunstone series, which you guys will hear a little bit about in a little bit. But yeah, they were really good, and I've already read the first 2 of them, and we already owned the first one. So, but this was part of my purchase. And that was most of my reading books, like that I brought home. And then I did snag an ARC at work, the new Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab, and this one is Gallant. I truthfully do not know what this is about. I just know that, like, I have liked V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab's writing. I know that they write under V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab depending on what, like, age level, I think. And I don't remember which one. I think Victoria Schwab is YA. I want to say it's YA, but now I'm second guessing if this is actually YA. Either way, they have a beautiful writing style, and I so far have liked everything that I've picked up from them. And last year's Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I snagged that arc, and that was like one of my tops of the year, and I was like, I'm on board, like, I'll read this, like, I'm taking this home. So this one doesn't come out until March of this year, so I've got some time to read it before the release, but I'm excited about it. And it's such a cool book. Like, it's got a bunch of like different types of things inside it. It's written like a normal book, but there's like little like snippets of things and like photos. And I have no idea what any of this is gonna mean. I'm down for it. So that is another one that I picked up that I just took home from work. So those are the ones that I have added to my TBR, which do I want to take a look to see what we're even at right now? So we are now up to 137 owned, unread books on my TBR. Hopefully we'll be able to get it down to 100. And you know what, right now, like at this pace, I'm pretty pleased with myself, how much I read this month. So I'm hoping that's like a sign that I'll be able to get through it, but we'll find out. Okay, so the first one that I completed this month is Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellafleur. I really champion these books because they are like rom-com-y, new adult books, but this one, they take place in the Pacific Northwest, so I really like reading about where I am at currently. And this one is noted for bi representation. I will say in this book, we don't see a lot of it. So I know that obviously, like, I am a bi woman who is in a relationship with a man, so I totally understand that that is still valid representation happening, but there's no confirmed I am bi situation in this book. The only scenario where it would indicate that she was not straight, which that is a whole other filter, that would like assume that everybody is straight, and that's a whole other situation and topic to go into. But the only situation where she's interacting with another person that she's attracted to is that she mentions that there is a cute girl who gives her her number at the coffee shop, and that is it at the very beginning of the book. Unless I completely missed some other like mentions of like past relationships or something maybe. That's the only thing I could think of. And then if that is the case, please leave me a comment down below. But otherwise, it is, I would not lead into this book saying, oh, this is great bi representation, because it's very subtle and it's not explicitly said that she is bi in the book. So that's my one like ding for this book. Overall, it's really cute. This whole series, this is the second like sister book in the series. I really liked the first one that's written in the stars. That one is all around like astrology and things like that. So in this book, we get one of the main character's best friends who like is coming to town, and she is up for a big promotion to pretty much like move across the world. And she feels like very not close-knit with her friends anymore, but she's like afraid that she like is going to tell them this, and that she's gonna be upset. Anyway, and then our main character, who is a man who is very much like a hopeless romantic and wants to prove to this girl that there is like still romance and stuff in the world. It's been a minute since I've read it. I've read it at the beginning of the month. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked the chemistry. I really liked the story. Like I said, the one real big ding is that this was pitched to me as a bi book, and that it was not, in my opinion, like explicit enough or explored enough or shown enough to be considered that, I suppose. But I enjoyed it just like any other romance book. I really liked the scenes. I really liked the chemistry. I liked the whole like friendship group. I would recommend this whole series to people. I'm really excited for the next one, which is, put a picture here because I cannot picture it, but it's got a real cute cover. I'm excited for that one. Next up, I read The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one. And this one I was really disappointed with. I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5 stars. This one was just not for me. A lot of this felt like you could feel her writing block in this, and they were just writing things that like they thought people would like, or like cliches, I suppose. Not quite cliches, but like it was very generic to me. It didn't feel, it felt like I'm on a deadline, I need to write this. Which, I mean, that's just from my perspective, but I didn't really jive with this one. There wasn't a ton of things that I was like, oh, I love this. Oh, I like resonate with this one super well. Like, it just was very lackluster for me, and I was a bit disappointed. If this was my one and only Amanda Lovelace book that I'd ever read, I probably wouldn't pick up any of her other stuff, because it just felt like she was trying too hard, or that they were like feeding to the masses, not like authentic. But I ended up picking up Shine Your Icy Crown by Amanda Lovelace, and this was a 5 out of 5 stars. This was phenomenal. This is probably, and I said this in my reading vlog, this is probably my favorite poetry book that I've ever read. For a hot second, made me want to like get a like reference of a tattoo like from this, and it was stunning. I loved the writing in this. I loved how the whole thing tied together. This one has a lot of, and also all of Amanda Lovelace's works have trigger warnings that I have seen so far, so just, you know, take care and look at that stuff beforehand going into this, because oftentimes poetry books can be quite brutal. This one ties a lot of like advice from a big sister and how women see the world and different struggles and how to be okay with taking up space in this world and having a voice and being worthy and seeing worth in yourself. Like, all of it was so good. I really love this. Like, this was one of them that I was like, I would love to save this for my little nieces who I think like would benefit from learning these types of lessons and reading these types of poems. And I really love this a lot. I highly recommend you picking this one up. Even if you're not a poetry fan, check this one out because it's worth picking up. Next up, I read Some Girls Do, and I ended up rating this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is a YA, women-loving women contemporary book that was enjoyable, easy to binge. It's got really good characters. I will say there is trigger warnings for this as well. There's some like homophobia. So the whole premise with this one is that it's their senior year of high school. There's two girls who, one is a beauty pageant queen who doesn't want to be a beauty pageant. She is pretty much like letting her mom live vicariously through her because her mom was a beauty pageant queen and got pregnant and couldn't do it any longer. So now she's just pushing her daughter to do it all. But she's very much like into cars and doesn't really care about the beauty scene. And then we have our other main character who is a track star, and she was on a track team in a private school. I think it was a private Catholic school, and she came out, or that she was outed, I'm not sure which one, but it came out that she was attracted to females, and they pretty much blackballed her because it is a private Catholic school. And like, she tried to transfer schools because of the toxic environment that she was now in, and they pretty much said that she like was competing and like with the other track team, and she wasn't allowed to compete, and there was all this drama with that. So there's like a lawsuit going on with this private school during this thing. And they pretty much like, they meet at this school, and the beauty queen is also like considered the like slut at the school. And so they both have like turmoil on each side, and it was a pretty good book. It's a bit forgettable, but I like the characters, and it was such a bingeable book that I would be like, yeah, pick it up if you have got a few hours to spare, but it's not like a must read for me. Next up, I read volumes 1 and 2 of Sunstone. I really enjoyed this. So I ended up giving volume 1 a 4.5 stars and volume 2 a 4 out of 5 stars. And this is a lesbian BDSM graphic novel, and this is definitely, I mean, this is erotica, so there's explicit imaging in here. So if you're not of age, or you know, just take that with what you will. But this is like not safe for work, like to read at work. But it's a really good story, and it's definitely like you fall in love with the storyline. It really is a storyline, but also the artwork is Stepan Sejic, and I adore his artwork, and it's definitely like been one of my top illustrators. So I really enjoyed this enough to pick up the whole series. I am really loving this. I will say it is not the best representation for the BDSM community. I will say that. And I will also say I'm not part of the BDSM community, so I'm not one to speak on it, but I do know that there is some problematic things in here that are not mentioned. Things like shrugging off aftercare as just cuddling, which aftercare is a lot more nuanced than that. And it's very important to the whole process of this. And there is also, they talk about safe words, but there is no contracts. There's no like safety things put into place. They go a little bit into that in volume 2 about how they were novices and they like, you know, got into just some dangerous rigging situations that could be seriously damaging. And BDSM is not something to toy with lightly because it can be damaging. It can be physically harmful if you are not, you know, you don't practice it safely. So I didn't love that was in the first one, and it was such a cavalier way of dealing with it, especially because they discussed how there was issues that has happened in the past, and then this one is in the future. So this one goes back into one of our main characters' past, and how she kind of got into BDSM and things like that. And this is like current day, and it like flips back and forth because it's someone telling the story. So I didn't love that. Like, she should have known better by the time that they were meeting each other. So that's my one complaint with this, but overall it's really good, really stunning artwork. I highly recommend, if you are of age, to check this out. Next up, I read Heartstoppers Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. I really liked this one. It's a 4 out of 5 stars for me. It's really cute. It's very quick graphic novel to read. I did like a digital one for my library, and the artwork is really cute. I really like the style of it, and the story is very simplistic. This is a gay romance, and what I really love about this one is that they don't vilify the person who is not out, that they should be out, or that if they don't want to come out, and the other person is very patient and understanding and fine with it, that taking it at the other person's speed, and it's just very wholesome and cute, and I highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out, to check it out. Next, I picked up my reread because Gabby over at Gallant Books was currently reading it and checked out at the library, and we share library cards, so I see what she's checked out, and she was reading the X Talk, and I was like, I'm just gonna pick up the audiobook again, because I was in between audiobooks at the time, so I was just like, I'm just gonna zip through this, because that's one that I can, you know, binge on audiobook and get it done in 2 days, and it holds up fantastic. 5 out of 5 stars. It's the one that I won't shut up about from last year, and I am so pleased with it. If you like podcasts, if you like Hate to Love, if you like the trope of only one bed, if you liked forced proximity, if you like fake dating, all of that is molded into such a good book. I highly recommend it. What the premise is there is a radio show that is on NPR, or they're with NPR, but like they feature their shows and things like that. It's a radio show that's dying, and they are trying to find creative ways to keep themselves on the air. And they, like, our main character offhandedly mentions that what would be funny would be a dating show run by exes, giving them advice on how to not screw up like they did. And they're like, okay, this is very unique. Like, we like this idea, but we don't have any exes. And then the radio boss gets an idea that they already bicker and hate each other in the office. Like, everyone would already believe that they had been dating, and that's why they bicker so bad, so they could be the exes and put them on air. And it is just so good. I highly recommend it. It's 5 out of 5 stars. Go read this. It's great. Next up, I listened to They Both Die at the End, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I was very surprised how much this like tugged at my heartstrings. I knew that, you know, like, it's very obvious. They say in the book, like, you know, the title, they both die at the end. But I was not expecting like some of the twists in this book. So the whole premise is that there is a utopia slash dystopian happening in this YA novel, that you get a call from the death cast letting you know that it's your death day, that you are going to die in the next 24 hours so you can live your life to the fullest, basically. So people are like terrified of these phone calls, right? And there is a app that has gotten developed that you can connect on there, that you can find your last friend, and it connects you to a variety of different people, but the main thing is that you can find someone who also has their death, like they're on their death day, and you can both spend your day together if you don't have anybody else to spend it with, living out to your fullest, basically. And it's a really cool world, really cool concept, and it definitely like makes you question mortality. And they also end up falling in love because it's a gay romance. Just, it was a good time. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know why I don't give it 5 stars. It just doesn't feel like a 5 star to me. but it's a 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely recommend this to people. Next up, I ended up reading Malice by Heather Walter, and this one is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, but it is from the villain's perspective. So we have Malice, or Alice is her name, and she lives in this house with all of these girls that have powers, and there's the Graces have like good powers, like they can make you beautiful and they service these people, and Alice has darker powers, and it deals with like the mean girl trope. It deals with fated types of people. There is just so many different interesting caveats, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a villain retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and it is a female-female romance, and it is slow burn, and it was great. And the next one comes out like this month, and I definitely like want to pick that up soonish. 4 out of 5 stars. Really good. It took a little bit to get into it. It was a little bit of a slow start, but I enjoyed it overall. Next up, I picked up The Mistake, which was our Shelf Indulgence book club pick, and this one I ended up giving a 3 out of 5 stars to. I just don't think this was meant for me. And I have like a feeling that all of her books are kind of the same thing. We have the cocky hockey player who is arrogant, who is a playboy, and then meets this girl who isn't wooed by him, and that intrigues him. So then he like is seeking her out because she is not taken in by his charms. And that's kind of all of the books, that seems like the premise on them. I will say I cared about the book, like characters in here. Eventually, she does a really good job at developing backstories, really developing well-rounded characters on the guy's side. Not so much the female side in here, but the guy's side definitely gets a little bit more nitty-gritty backstory, that we understand them a bit more, and I really liked that aspect of it. But the girls are kind of underdeveloped in my opinion. But I like the girls in these books as well. It's just not enough to keep me going. I will say, like, the 3 stars is mainly for the backstories that she has developed and the relationships that she develops in here. The sex scenes definitely go from really good sex scenes to real cringe. So be forewarned on that. And I don't like the arrogant, cocky trope. That's just not for me. So it was a 3 out of 5 stars for me, and I will not be continuing with this series. Next up, I picked this one up on a whim because it was all over TikTok a while ago, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is another rom-com book that is said to be inspired by the main girl off of Schitt's Creek. I have seen a few seasons of that, so I knew Alexa. I definitely think that's it. The relationship in here is cute. I will say that. I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars as well. So I like the relationship in here. I like the men in here. I liked the occupation that we got to really look into, because our occupation is of these fishermen in the Pacific Northwest. And they go like crab fishing, and it's very dangerous, and there's lots of, and people die on boats, and that's how our main character, her father died, was because he died on a fishing boat. And this is like a party girl who's very privileged and like living in LA, and she causes a lot of trouble, and so her stepdad and her mom decide that she needs to like learn a lesson. So her and her sister end up going back to the hometown of where they were born and grew up when they were younger. And like they inherited this rundown bar basically. So they go and they have to stay there to pacify the people who pay for everything basically. And they end up like meeting all the locals and restoring the bar and doing all that stuff since they're there. And there is this local fisherman guy who is the captain of this boat, who is a crab fisher. And it's really good. I like the chemistry in here. I loved seeing the locals. I loved the town of this. I loved the different characters. I really like the sister, and I probably will pick up the second one because of the sister, because it's going to be following the sister. What I didn't like in here is that our main character is very spoiled, and the guy kind of indulges in her in that, and he's like, well, I like that she's spoiled and that like she just owns it and she's conceited and owns it. And I'm just like, that's such a cringe, like look at my face, like that's such a cringe thing that I guess it's like he's accepting her for who she is, but like maybe not. Like maybe you should be thankful for the things you have instead of, you know, like it didn't jive with me. It ended up being a 3 out of 5 stars, but I probably will pick up the second one because I like the atmosphere and I like what the next trope is gonna be. And lastly, I picked up We Were Liars, and I ended up giving this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This one was super weird, and I don't understand why people love this so much. Like, there is a twist at the end. So basically, what this is, if I can try to explain this, and everybody says like you should go into this blind, so I don't want to set you up for too much. I went into this blind and it didn't make it any better. I was just as confused. Basically, there's a like family that's very well off that lives on a private island in the summers near Martha's Vineyard, and there is some like there's like a mystery element to this a little bit, or there's like they're all keeping secrets from her, that there was this accident and no one will tell her, like the staff on the property is not allowed to talk about it with her. No one in the family is allowed to talk about it with her. So she's like having amnesia but wants to remember, but people kept telling her and then she kept forgetting, so then they stopped telling her because the doctor said it wasn't good to tell her and that she needs to remember on her own. This turned weird and I don't understand why people liked it, but I also don't like being in the dark for that long. And you get to like the last like maybe 40 pages and then things start to explain. So I didn't like it. I will say I was not prepared. For those who, you know, want to know, slight spoiler, the dogs die in this book, and I was not prepared for that. So I was listening to it and I was like, oh my god. So, you know, forewarning for that. Okay, spoiler over. But yeah, that was not my cup of tea, and I don't understand why that's so damn popular. Let me know down below, like, what other books I should stay away from if I didn't like We Were Liars. So, if you like We Were Liars, you'll probably love Snot Girl. Go check out that graphic novel because it's beautiful, but that one also, same situation. Just like, what is actually happening? I need to know, and it drives me nuts that I, you know, don't know, that I'm constantly in the dark. So, that is everything that I read in the month of January. Let me know down below what your favorite thing was that you read for the month of January. I would say, I mean, it's the only one that I think I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. Oh, besides my reread, with 5 out of 5 stars for this poetry book. But definitely graphic novels. I'm really excited that my Sunstones, like, I loved that. And I'm gonna have a whole new graphic novel season, or series to start, even though, you know, there's only 7 out and it's no longer being produced. So, but it's something fun that I wanted to start. So, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna go. Leave me a comment down below what your favorite book is, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.